Week 7 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few players I look to buy and trade for this week. The first guy, Calvin Ridley of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Calvin Ridley, it's been an up and down season so far for him in his first year with this Jacksonville Jaguar team, and it's a season double-digit fantasy games. And the rest, he really hasn't done much. So in his latest game, Week 6 versus Indianapolis, only 4 catches, 30 yards, and right now Trevor Lawrence, he possibly could be out for this ball game here on Thursday Night Football versus the Saints. He hurt that knee, and he's going for an MRI. So right now, if he's out of this game, it's going to be trouble, I think, for all the receivers. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Zay Jones if he plays in this game. But right now, Calvin Ridley, like I said, he's a talented wide receiver. I know he was suspended for the season, but he's a player that could go out there and make plays and make a difference. But right now, this Jacksonville Jaguar team, it's been more Travis Etienne than the passing game, finishing off drives and finding the end zone. So right now, Ridley's been pretty much a 50-50 player this season with 3 good games and 3 poor games. He's a player I would go out there and look to buy, because I think once the second half of the season hits and Ridley really gets his legs on the room, and a guy who's going to go out there and produce. So right now, well, like I said, he missed a year. Maybe he's not 100% into football shape, or not even 100% into the playbook as well, since it's his first season in Jacksonville. But anyway, if he gets things going as Calvin Ridley, and him and Lawrence build a better rapport, he's definitely a buy low candidate and a play that can help fantasy owners in a big way. The next play is T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins, so far this season, besides one game, he hasn't done anything for fantasy owners. And we know he's not 100% as well. Higgins missing a Week 5 game with a rib injury. So right now, like I said, he hasn't done much of the season. Only one double-digit fantasy game. It was Week 2 versus the Ravens. 8 catches, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And ever since then, 3 and 4 point game performances. So right now on a bye week is this Bengal team, and then they come back with a tough matchup. Week 8 it's San Francisco, and Week 9 versus the Buffalo Bills. But right now, contract season here for T. Higgins. I think he's going to get things right. Joe Burrow not 100% as well, and this bye week as a whole is going to help this Cincinnati Bengal team. They got off to a 1-3 start, but the last 2 weeks they wrote the ship a little bit here, 3-3 on the season. And I think after the bye week, this team's going to take off, and T. Higgins is going to take off. So right now, well, he pretty much hasn't done anything, and it's been a major fantasy bust. This is a perfect time to buy him low. This week, the next play is Puka Nacua of the Los Angeles Rams. So Puka Nacua, he's taken the league by storm this season here, where he had 5 games to start the season with double-digit fantasy points. But then Week 6, he didn't do anything. 4 catches, 26 yards, but he did drop a ball that was a 50-50 ball, where he had to dive for a little bit and couldn't hold on for a touchdown. Well, that would have made his day once again for Puka Nacua. But obviously, Cooper Kupp, he's been back the last 2 weeks. He's been getting peppered with targets, and Kupp had the monster 150-yard game in Week 6 versus the Arizona Cardinals. But another decent matchup coming up for Nacua versus the Pittsburgh Steelers that give up the 6th most fantasy points to receivers on the season. I think Nacua is one of the better possession wide receivers in the league right now. This offense here, they throw the football a whole lot. We saw it in the first half of that game until they said, you know what, we're going to run this football a lot, and they did down the throat of the Arizona Cardinals. So right now, after coming off a poor game and many people thinking maybe Cooper Kupp is going to take most of Nacua's work, I think Nacua the rest of the season still is a solid number 2 wide receiver and a player to buy this week. Next play is Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. I know Taylor so far in the first 2 weeks back after injury and then signing his contract extension, we haven't seen much out of Taylor, but the touches are going to go up weekly. He had 13 touches in the game, and he finished with 11.50 fantasy points at the Jaguars. So right now, with touches still not up to par, Zach Moss getting work and being productive, and people thinking he's going to remain a mainstay in the backfield. Once things get going for Taylor and he ramps up activity, I think 75-80% of the touches Taylor is going to get. You're not going to sign a guy to a monster contract like that for no reason, and he's not going to play. So right now, well, his numbers have been down the first 2 weeks back for Jonathan Taylor. I think he turned things around, and he could be a league winner, or at least a guy that can help fantasy owners in a big way, especially at the running back position that's been depleted for the most part this season. So right now, Taylor is a buy low this week. The next buy low is Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons. I know Tyler Algier, he's been getting touches over there in the backfield, and I know Bijan Robinson was a first-round pick. Right now, Bijan Robinson, he's a solid running back, no doubt about it. One of the better receiving backs already in pro football out of the backfield in his rookie season. And the last 2 games, he's definitely gone down the numbers. Week 5 versus Houston, only 11.80 fantasy points with a receiving touchdown. A nice one-hand grab saved his day. And then week 6 versus the Washington Commanders, the 5 catches, 43 yards saved his day for 13 fantasy points. So right now, we all know we're waiting for that huge breakout ball game for Robinson, like we saw Devon Achane have early in the season, like we've seen Raheem Mostert have this year. So right now, Robinson, obviously this offense, Desmond Ridder's holding him back. I think if you had a quarterback like Taylor Heineke come in for Desmond Ridder, could spread the field a little bit and is more of a gunslinger mentality, it could open things up for a Bijan Robinson in this running game a little bit more. So right now, well, the last 2 games have been mid-performances here by Bijan Robinson. He's a player I would go out there and buy low this week because the talent's there. Catching the football is there for Robinson. And he could be a game changer and a game breaker for a lot of ball games coming up. So 2 games not doing much. It's a perfect time to buy him this week. The next player is another rookie running back, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. David Montgomery, I said so last week, and some people didn't agree with it. But now David Montgomery, once again, is going to be on the shelf. And that's the thing with David Montgomery. He's an injury-prone running back so far in his early career with the Chicago Bears the last couple of years. And now already he missed a game in week 3 for this Lion team. And now is going to miss more time. So I know Jahmyr Gibbs, he missed the last 2 games with the hamstring injury. But now Campbell's saying it's trending toward he's going to play in this Sunday's ball game, Baltimore Ravens, in week 7 here. So Jahmyr Gibbs, he should come in right away, I believe, 15, 20 touches per game, with Craig Reynolds mixed in as well. So Jahmyr Gibbs this season, he's had 8 or more fantasy points in the 4 games he's played this season. But now I want to see Jahmyr Gibbs have that breakout game. I know it's not the greatest of matchups at the Baltimore Ravens, but a lot of people are frustrated with Jahmyr Gibbs. He was a 3rd, 4th rounder in most fantasy drafts, and the numbers really haven't been there at all. But now with David Montgomery up and an opportunity for Gibbs to come off injury, hopefully 100% almost, and take this running back job by storm. If Gibbs could come in there and have 2 monster games in a row, because I believe Montgomery will be out to week 10 with their bye in week 9. So if Gibbs could come in week 7 at Baltimore and week 8 versus Vegas, and you trade pretty much nothing to get him on your team, and you got a top 10, top 15 back if he takes the job, this is the time to do it with David Montgomery out. Like I said, most likely to week 10, I believe they'll sit him out too. So Jahmyr Gibbs, after sitting out the last 2 games with injury, and now could be the man once again back there in the backfield. He's definitely a running back and a play to buy this week. And the final play I look to buy and trade for is DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. So DK Metcalf, he's definitely been frustrated this season. Geno Smith has missed him, and he's been wide open on some plays as well, where Geno just couldn't get the ball out in time, where he just missed them altogether. So far this season, only 1 game here for DK Metcalf, over 100 yards. The rest of the games, they haven't been horrible games, but for a player like DK Metcalf, you expect more than pretty much his ceiling being 13 fantasy points this season. So this week, a good matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals. They give up the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. And Metcalf and Geno, they got to get back on the same page. Last season, Metcalf had a great year, 1,048 receiving yards, 90 catches, and 6 touchdowns. And so far this season, like I said, the numbers are down, no doubt about it. Not getting a lot of targets like he did to start last season. But DK Metcalf, he's one of the better wide receivers in the league. And he's a guy that could go up and get the football, or he's a guy that could go right by you. So right now, while Metcalf's numbers have been down so far to start the year, he's a perfect buy low player this week. So that's a few plays I look to buy and trade for in week 7 of the fantasy football season.